This conversation with Jeff was fascinating. He talked about branding is about be bold. And I just could not resist the urge to pushing him on what is be bold. Jeff right now is mostly in the B2B business, and he right away pushed me by saying be bold is thinking what not to do and what new things to start. He pushed hard that in B2B, because most of your business comes from your existing current clients, it's imperative to put funds on current clients' relationships to maintain dollars, increase dollars, and get word of mouth. He also shared about conversations, whether it is B2C or B2B, everything is getting more conversational. Instead of going to a website, whether through ChatGPT or through Siri or anywhere else, it's through the conversations we will make decisions. How can brands jump into that world of joining conversations instead of interrupting and disrupting conversations? Where should our websites go? What is the future role? Very fascinating discussion. And learning from a 30-year-old veteran whose pillars in life started with his parents, who taught him integrity and discipline. Then he moved to restaurants and talked about operationalizing consistency, delivering over and over, to now taking brands to being bold. I enjoyed the conversation. In fact, at certain points, I even wanted to pause the conversation to go and rewind a little to rehear certain things because it was truly gold. Branding is be bold. Enjoy the conversation. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome my VIP guest, Jeff Pedowitz. Jeff grew up in the restaurant business where he learned the value of operations and grit. A Commodore 64 sparked his love for technology, and his parents inspired him to be in this business with passion. Since founding the Pedowitz Group in 2007, Jeff has partnered with his incredible team to help more than 1,400 companies engage customers, go digital, and grow revenue. I'm very excited to have this conversation with Jeff. Jeff, welcome. And let's have an incredible conversation starting with restaurants and your journey forward and where you're going. Jeff, some conversations, the anticipation is also amazing. I have been thinking about this conversation with you, and I really wanted to start at a very simple place. You started with restaurants, and also you talked about your parents' influence. Let's talk about restaurants first. One or two key learnings that you're taking from restaurants every day.
The importance of good service and operational discipline, I would say. So, first, just understanding how to always take care of the customer, but also serving your fellow coworkers and taking care of the chefs in the back of the kitchen, being sensitive to everyone that plays a role, whether it's the dishwasher, the busboy, the maitre d', or the waiter, and of course the customer. And so I've tried to employ a service-oriented philosophy in business and life. I try and treat people as I would like to be treated. But I think the other thing I really learned in restaurant business is just that operational tempo, inventory, systems, controls, managing food costs, managing labor costs. And I think that really gave me the backbone as I moved into marketing technology, marketing operations.
I love that. And especially as you're talking about it, it reminds me that a restaurant is more like a reality TV.
You would think there would be more restaurant well, I guess they have a few, like Gordon Ramsay and all that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, because everything is custom created. It's not a packaged goods. The experience is custom created, so that importance is there. And the next is, like, when I was reading your bio, the thing that hit me is about you mentioning with humility about your parents. What a wisdom that you keep close to your heart that you got from your parents that's very important in the business world.
Integrity, doing what you say you'll do. Both my parents, old school that way, very hard workers. I think they instilled a strong work ethic in myself and my siblings. But just without in the absence of formal big contracts, when you shake someone's hand and you say you're going to do something, you do it. And if you make a mistake, you own it. So I think my parents encouraged us to take risks, to push ourselves, but to then own our mistakes and failures and be humble about it.
Love that. So with that, let's jump into branding. And
that's a okay.
Huge jump. Okay.
Yeah, let's go from parents to branding. Sure.
Parents, restaurants to branding. Absolutely.
Okay, absolutely.
I really had to get those two things out because...
you know what? I can hang. Let's go.
Absolutely. Sure. So with your years in impacting results through the path of branding and beyond, from a big picture, what has branding evolved to you? Like, what is branding to you?
Well, I mean, I think the best brands, whether it's ours or anybody's, are the ones that connect. You have a visceral emotional reaction, ideally a positive one, where the consistency of the brand, the way it told the story, you just identify. And if you could name it in one or two words, whether it's about better service, better price, right, better operational controls, whatever it's trying to convey, then the brand is working. Of course, so much harder today, even for the most highly skilled marketers. The sheer volume of channels, the number of personas, the different ways we have to reach everyone, and AI acting as the amplification layer in both good and bad ways. I think it's more important than ever to have good brand discipline, but also harder than ever to have good brand discipline.
So as this world is changing, as you mentioned, moving faster, AI, discipline is important. What are few things that we need to do today which are different than yesterday?
I think from a discipline perspective, and this has just been a general problem in marketing for years, I mean, marketing tends to be very reactive. It's got a lot of audiences it's always trying to please. And so you're constantly jumping through hoops, which also means putting out a ton of content, trying to generate leads, do all those things. From a brand perspective, and especially now in AI, it's not putting out more content. It's about really thinking through what the content has to do. So particularly in the context of AI-driven search. So if you're in B2B, you're selling to multiple people. That's just a reality of life, 5, 8, 15 people. But most of our systems and most of our content are oriented towards just one or two personas. So having the discipline to say, whatever it is, I'm going to do a new infographic, it's a white paper, it's an ebook, it's a blog, it doesn't matter. How do I write this content asset in such a way that I can appeal to as many of my target personas as possible without getting dilutive? That's discipline. That's more strategy, staying within your brand voice, but making each piece of content work harder and do more. That's a change. And that's something that marketers are going to be forced to adapt to.
I think that is a huge nugget that most of us thought B2B as a very linear, one gatekeeper, one decision maker. But what you are teaching us right away, based on your wisdom, is multiple people have different parts to play. And one may have 1% role, but that's the veto power that can totally take me out if I don't target.
And that happens all the time. And we're blind to it and don't see it. I don't know why. I mean, we throw out these acronyms like, oh, we got to do account-based marketing. We got to go after our account. We have to cross-sell and upsell. But when you look at fundamentally how our systems have been built, including the funnel, it's one lead that gets a score, gets attached to the opportunity. Marketing is measuring attribution off that one person connected to that opportunity. Sales is forecasting based upon that one person attached to the opportunity. But that's not how it works. It hasn't worked that way in 15, 20 years. And AI is only exacerbating that. So because it's identifying all the holes. So for the CFO, who in all likelihood is, unless they're really interested, they're not going online to do anything. They're not going to go visit our website and review all this content, but they are absolutely putting together business case calculations, risk models, and those things. So is your content reaching that person? the CIO? Are you taking into account the technology considerations, security, all those kinds of things? So, yeah, that's what marketers need to be doing. And because at the pace now that AI is running, and even before AI happened, I mean, buyer patterns have been changing for 15 years. So, and there's always been, they're 60% through the sales cycle, 80% through the sales cycle before they want to talk. Well, that was true even before AI. So what do you think these people are doing? If they're that far through the sales cycle and they haven't been on your site, now in the age of LLMs and real-time search, where do you think they're going to get their information, right? They're getting it through these LLMs in real time. So what has to happen, and this is another big change, and that affects brand with everything, 80% of the principles of marketing are still sound. Yes, you have to have good brand, you have to know your ICP, you have to do all those things. But your website and marketing now needs to be the brain versus the magnet, because we have to now reverse the process. We have to meet our customers wherever they are at, on whatever channel or modal they're at, and we have to push out. That is a very different mindset thinking for any marketer that's grown up in this digital era for the last 25 years.
And, I think if we look at the transcript of our conversation thus far, the word that we have used maybe more than any is AI. A good marketer can help us with wisdom on what to do today. A great marketer like you not only is helping us today, but you are trying to see where the puck is going and being ready. So what does Jeff, the one of one, the super marketer, see in future to help your clients and brands be ready so they are not surprised by the big change that's coming in 2 years, 5 years from now?
Well, it's starting to set up an operating tempo on the lines of what we've been talking about. So first of all, like, what do you call it? GEO, AEO, we're calling it AXO. Come up with an acronym. We're really good at that marketing anyway. We like to label things, but it's really, are you reorienting your content and your channels in an AI search driven world? So what does that mean? Going through your core website and adding JSON schemas that are friendly to the AI LLMs, adding FAQ sections, building out specific topic clusters where you are an authority and going deeper, much deeper than you've ever gone with your content. Establishing a Reddit and Quora strategy. Yes, even if you're in B2B, your customers are absolutely on Reddit and Quora. Stop living in denial. So the blog is coming back with a vengeance because AI likes the recency of blogs, versus a static web page. So these are things that marketers can be doing right now because this is what AI is rewarding right now. Look, I've been in marketing for 30 plus years. I would be thrilled in my best days of SEO if I got ranking on the first page, and we all know the battle that is. Now, we're showing up 3 or 4 times for the one topic on the homepage. And this is what we're helping our clients do. Why? Because it's reorienting. So first of all, even if you are doing great at search, Google AI is pushing you halfway down the page because their AI is coming up. So it's dominating that top half of the page, including that top right-hand side. So if you do these things, you're going to reorient, and it's not like marketers won't be able to catch up like in SEO, but it's just going to be that much harder because the gap. So if you get there now, why don't you opt to operate the first position and make your competitors work that much harder so you can work on to the next thing? So these are some of the things that marketers can be doing today, right now. Second, we have to start preparing for a day and age where our website is not relevant from a visit standpoint. It's relevant from the brain and having all the information that it pushes out so they can be found. So we already see things. I mean, you can buy something right now on ChatGPT. You can talk to Alexa, you can talk to Siri. You don't have to visit the site. You can just have a conversation. As wearables become more affordable, we can interact with Alexa in our car. We're increasingly mobile. We're using our phones even more. So the internet as we know it, while it will still be there, it's going to be much more interactive, right? We're going to be able to just talk to our phones, talk in the air, holographic images, wearables. So for marketers, that means starting to understand that and think about, well, if someone's going to have a conversation, my 8-page white paper isn't going to work because no one's going to want to sit there and say, so Alexa, read me the 8 pages from the Pedowitz group on this topic, right? You got to be able to get there in a couple sentences. So very much like everything is an X tweet world, everything is an order a pizza world, everything's a TikTok world, getting reduced to 60 seconds or less.
For those of you who are listening to the conversation, I have a major request to you. Pause the conversation right now and rewind back to 6 to 7 minutes or 5, I don't know. Because what Jeff just gave me, I want to personally go back because it has the what to do, the so what, and the now what. Because from a website to every micro details you shared, I really think is gold, because I'm hearing these conversations at a very 50,000 feet level, but how you brought it down to simple words is role of website. How do we evolve to a conversation world? Because in a conversation, I need to participate, not interrupt or disrupt. And that becomes key in that particular way. So as we go through that, of course, a lot of brands, sometimes we get caught into our current success. So what are a few bigger picture do nots or warnings or caution you have for brands as we are evolving?
Well, stop selling, start facilitating.
Love that.
No one really wants to hear us talk about ourselves. Everyone wants, our oldest daughter has a great saying. She's like, everyone wants to be the hero of their own story. The best marketers understand that and don't make their own company the hero of the story. They make their customer the hero of the story. And look, I have to admit, I've been guilty of it too. As a marketer, we tend to get cute. We want to label everything. We want to have our whole brand voice. We want to talk about features and benefits. But the fact is, it's like our customers don't talk that way. So that's one thing, right? Start facilitating and stop selling. The second is focus on what you can measure, not on what you can't.
Can you give me an example of that, please?
Well, so for example, attribution, I think it gets increasingly difficult with all these channels. And is it really about proving which order or which widget connected the dot to get the deal? Or is it more important that as a percentage of spend, marketing and sales work together to produce the pipeline or the outcome? No one's interrogating sales. They just look at, hey, you have a quota, you have a cost, right? Did you hit the number? No one's saying, well, so how many meetings did you have? How many proposals did you write? Maybe some salespeople still or managers manage that way, but when you talk about measuring attribution, that's not in the conversation. But somehow marketing is being forced to have that conversation so that we have to prove or justify our existence. So for me, it's more about ROI. And this goes back to something over 20 years ago when the CFO at Eloqua, I came to him, I had built out this huge model and I gave him these 15 things that I thought we should measure. And he just shook his head and he's like, Jeff, I only need one number. That's ROI. It's really simple. I look at what I gave marketing last year and how much revenue we produced. And then I look at the same number this year. If that ratio went up, I give you more money. If that ratio went down, I take away money. And I've had that instilled in me ever since. And so but what I'm not saying marketing shouldn't measure the marketing mix and trying to figure out how to get the right channels and move dollars around in advertising. Yes, that's important, but stop chasing attribution because I think it's a waste of time.
Love that. And I think that partially answers, or in a big way, my next question I want to get to was, what is winning big to you in branding? What is the one purpose that you have locked in as a North Star as you help brands evolve, grow, and win big?
It really is consistency at scale. Look, it's always important to revisit your brand and your brand promise every few years. But with all the various channels to coordinate, it's very easy to lose brand discipline. And let's face it, B2B is very different than B2C. B2C, you don't have to argue about brand and investing in brand. That's the whole mantra. But in B2B, It's always like, why do we need brand? Why do we need the department? Why do we have to put budget towards brand? And it's a battle that every CMO has had to fight, over the last 10 or 15 years. But nonetheless, it's more important than ever. So I think it's just really important to have that discipline. How do I make sure that my TikTok videos consistent with my YouTube short, consistent with my Reddit post, consistent with Instagram, whatever channels that you're operating on, that consistency has to be really important. And then whatever your brand promise is, understanding that you are losing more and more control over the conversion process by the day. So how do you fulfill on that brand promise within marketing when you don't control the engagement?
Brilliant. So now let's take a bigger picture. Jeff, the consumer of branding information coming to you, what are a few brands, primarily in the B2B space, could be B2C, that are doing great, that when you see from outside with your expertise, you give them 5 stars by saying proud of you?
Oh, that's really interesting. I guess I think of hybrid models. I think of companies like Claude or NVIDIA that are really doing really well. I guess I did pick 2 AI examples, but I think they're executing really well on Claude, not just on the B2C, but how they're increasingly engaging and building that brand promise with businesses directly. I think are strong.
Love that. So this has been a fascinating conversation. To wrap everything together, any final thoughts, any questions you have, anything you want to share?
My partner, Dr. Debbie Gagish, and I talk about this all the time. Marketing, at least marketing leadership, is for the bold. So there's more change going on than ever before. So you have a choice. You can be bold and lead and define, or you can retreat and lose your job like so many other marketing leaders have. It really is a binary choice. So I say be bold. There's no time like the present. Get after it.
I want to push you a little bit on the be bold part. I see organizations are stuck in 2 levels. One is organizations who are very transactional. The conversations are what happened to sales, how do we influence sales? Right? Then they go to the next level, which is relationship, and they think they have evolved by saying, how are our guests feeling? They do some surveys, NPS score, blah, blah, blah. And then their conversations are organizations that get to the transformational level. They really focus on what do our customers feel about it, our clients feel. So as they start getting bold, how can that boldness connect back to the things that you talked about? Evolving the brand to transactions. You talked about ROI and you talked about discipline. I really would request at the end to bring everything together by saying my goal is be bold, ROI to the CFO, and to have discipline. How does Jeff bring everything together?
So to be specific in that scenario, as a B2B company, typically 60 to 80% of your revenue comes from your existing client base. Yet 80% of the spend in marketing and sales is directed at net new acquisition. Completely out of alignment with how your go-to-market model works. I'm not arguing against getting new clients. We all need them. But to keep this tight, being bold means changing your budget, changing your systems, changing how your teams are orged. So you start going after actually growing your customer base, because if you say that you really care about your customers, then you should be putting your money where your mouth is and actually spending your time, energy, and effort to grow your install base. That's what being bold is. Being bold is leveraging AI and intelligence to understand your customers better than they understand themselves, and tailoring your content, your programs, your services, your products so that they get the unique benefit of your value proposition, your brand, specifically for them. That's what being bold is fulfilling your brand promise one client at a time in a way that is unique to them and valuable to them.
Love that. Jeff, this has been fascinating. Really learned a lot. And, I've admired you from outside, but seeing how Jeffism is changing branding, not today, but tomorrow. Thank you for sharing that. Truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.